Tonight, we have the Highland Park and Children's Pavilion with JoAnne Beck, the president of the Highland Park Conservancy. JoAnne is a landscape architect who retired after 35 years of professional experience, including academic, private, and public practice. She currently serves as president of the board of directors of Highland Park Conservancy and of the Rochester Olmsted Park Alliance. In 2024, her work was recognized with a Lifetime Achievement Award from the New York Upstate chapter of the American Society of Landscape Architects and the President's Award from the National Olmsted Network. So, tonight's guest, JoAnne Beck.
I'm so happy to be here. Highland Park Conservancy has been advocating for Highland Park since 1994 and really advocating for the reconstruction of the Children's Pavilion. You can see that our logo, Highland Park Conservancy logo, is based on that, on the pavilion. Which was, as you can see in this photograph, this is at its dedication in 1890. It was, the park was constructed, but the plants had to grow. So the pavilion was really the very first major accomplishment of establishing the park. And I just want to say something about Frederick Law Olmsted, who was the designer of the park, because for many, many years, I'm a landscape architect. For many, many years, I would hear about Olmsted as an important landscape architect. And I would think, that is really not right, because what other landscape architect have you ever heard of? And really, Olmsted was a transformative figure in American history. He was involved in only the most momentous and consequential issues of his time. He traveled the South and wrote the articles in the then New York Times that have been collected in the book The Cotton Kingdom, which continues to be an important firsthand resource to historians on the South during slavery. And unlike the first person narratives that we have, the slave narratives, which are really important, he brought a broader look at the economy and the culture and, basically the impoverishment of the entire, the entire area because of slavery. So that was really important. And then he was, in addition to designing Central Park, which really changed the way this country was developed. Central Park was really the first major park, municipal park, and everybody wanted one after that. In fact, I include this quote because it just gets right to the dumb of it. It was really the most important work of American art of its time. And it's still as relevant today as it was. I think it's, still one of the most visited places in New York City. Olmsted also was a hero of the Civil War. He was the head of the U.S. Sanitary Commission, which, he didn't just witness the destruction of the Civil War. He was responsible for dealing with the casualties. And he pretty much invented disaster relief, and the Red Cross was founded based on those models. he was a not only an artist, but he was influenced by all of the history, all of these really consequential events in history, and he had this um, a philosophy that is expressed in his design. So everything we use every day is designed for some purpose. You know, the Thruway is designed to get us from here to there quickly and safely. Um, and it and it speaks to the physical form of it, speaks to the values that it's meant to express. And the same with the Olmsted parks. They have really these uniquely, they're uniquely American, and they have moral purpose. And the moral purpose includes wellness. This happens to be a photograph of taken of a group in Genesee Valley Park, which another of our Olmsted parks. Community, having experienced slavery, the period of slavery and the Civil War, Olmsted ardently believed that everyone could share equally in the benefits of our public infrastructure and the benefits of democracy. And so he designed to promote community and social equity. Now, this photograph is in Highland Park, and sometimes I pair it with a photograph of the Schönbrunn Palace in Vienna, which is all geometry, and you know, it really is designed to highlight the power of the ruler. And in Highland Park, this is a photograph of two kids. One is running down the hill, and the one that you can't see very well actually rolled all the way down the hill. And this is, to me, the essence of the Olmsted design. It's about people having access to natural beauty. So here we have the Olmsted plan for Highland Park. And the park, this is the historic core of the park. Of course, the park has expanded tremendously beyond these 22 acres. I think now it's 150 acres. But Olmsted designed the historic core, and the aerial photograph shows that it was built as designed, which is an important distinction. There are many, many designs that just are never implemented. And then there are many that are changed terrifically. Well, you know, Genesee Valley has 390 running through it, and Seneca Park, another Olmsted design, has 104 running through it. These are big, big changes. But Highland was built as designed and has remained really intact. It has grown and matured, but the basic elements remain, except for the children's pavilion. And of course, in the plan, you can see the pavilion. It's a round structure at the tip of the just past the tip of the reservoir, and you can see it in the aerial photo. And this historic aerial view, you can see the pavilion to the right. And you can see how really significant the topography is to the character of the park. And this was one of Olmsted's, the source of Olmsted's real genius. He used the naturally occurring, the authentic scenic quality of every single site that he used, and he amplified it. And in the case of Highland, the landform was already um, very complex and interesting because it had been formed by the glaciers, and he actually amplified that. The overlook where the children's pavilion is located is a good 15 feet higher in elevation than the reservoir. Of course, the reservoir predated the park, and it was at the time the highest point in the park. But when the park was built, the overlook was elevated above the reservoir. And you can see in these photos a yoga group in the down in the low point of the park in the gully, and kids sledding in that area of the park. The topography is really, really important to the character. And of course, the vegetation, not just the lilacs, which are glorious, but the vegetation is um, important to the spatial progression through the site. Um, the the photograph on the left shows the pinetum when it was newly planted, and the photograph on the right is, you know, the glorious pinetum that we can see today. Completely different experience to move through there. Now, one thing about Olmsted is that he was a prolific writer. He, unlike some who are, you know, gifted visual artists, he wrote down every idea. And the two noted historians, um, Charles Beveridge and Charles, oh my gosh, his name just flew out of my mind. Anyway, they spent their entire working lives compiling the Olmsted papers in 12 volumes. And so we have loads and loads of documentation of what the intent was um, in designing the park with the pavilion at its highest point. And this quote is from a letter that Olmsted sent to the Parks Commission in Rochester about his design intent. Um, Again, another quote. And okay, I'm finally getting rid of that intrusive thing. Okay, so it was meant to be the high point of the visitor's experience. So from every entrance into the park, all drives and paths lead uphill to the pavilion. And it was meant to be a feature on the skyline so that you could see it from far away. And this is an historic view of the view out from the pavilion. And this was the whole, this was the whole point, to provide an experience that is really, really rare in Rochester, because most of Rochester is Lake Plain, and we don't get a lot of these elevated views. Highland and Cobb's Hill Park are really the most notable examples. And so this was meant to feature the rural landscape to the south. And these are two other views. The one on the left is from the top floor of the pavilion, and you can see all those benches. It was quite a performance venue in its time. So the benches were set up to so people could come and listen to a concert. And of course, the view over the reservoir. The reservoir was there before the park. It was one of the very first civilizing influences on Rochester to develop the public water system, which is a whole story in itself, and it's a major, major civic achievement and a very, very beautiful feature. Now, what is really, the Highland Park is very famous for the lilac collection and the horticultural collections. And what is really has been lost is that the reason for the shrub collections on that south-facing slope above Highland Avenue is to preserve that view from the Children's Pavilion. And in fact, today, um, there are some trees that need to be pruned back, but basically, having the shrub collections provides that open view. And that is in contrast to the view to the north, toward downtown, which is the Pinetum, and it's a solid wall of conifers, intentional opening and closing of the views. So the building itself, you can see the view up through the collections, through the rhododendron collection, and then an aerial view on the right. The building itself was designed by the architecture firm Shepley, Rutan, and Coolidge. And they were the successor firm to Henry Hobson Richardson, really significant architect who developed the Richardsonian Romanesque style. Rochester City Hall, just many glorious examples of Richardsonian Romanesque. And he collaborated frequently with Olmsted late in Olmsted's career, but he had died a couple of years before the Highland Park project. And so his successor firm, which continues to this day, it's a significant architectural firm out of Chicago, designed the structure. Until 1963, what happened? It was built in 1890. It needed some major structural repairs at the point when the city of Rochester and the county came to an agreement for the county to operate some of the major parks, including Highland, half of the eastern half of Genesee Valley, Seneca Park, and others, Durand and others. And so the county was saddled with a structure that was wrecked and unsafe and needing a lot of structural repairs. And their response was to ask the city for permission to demolish it. And you can see this shot of the city council resolution granting permission to demolish the pavilion, but on the condition that they rebuild it. And so we didn't discover this resolution um, until I think, well, we had been advocating for the Reconstruction for many, many, many years before we actually found this resolution. Um, and before we found the resolution, the Southeast Area Coalition, SEEK, which is a neighborhood organization in the city of Rochester, um, actually commissioned Barrow Architecture to do a feasibility study for the reconstruction of the Children's Pavilion. And this is a drawing of the west elevation from that report. And to the right is the cover of that report. And they basically outlined what it would take. And this was in 2002 and how much it would cost. And back then it was, I think, around $2 million. Of course, it had cost $5,000 to build it initially. And 2002, the estimate was around 2 million. We had a wonderful supporter who built this beautiful scale model, which we have taken to a lot of lilac festivals to show everybody, part of our advocacy. And in 2022, which was the bicentennial of Olmsted's birth, the county executive announced that Monroe County would undertake the Children's Pavilion project. And in the county legislature approved a budget of around $3 million. Now that $3 million included over $1 million, which the public, all of us, contributed. And that includes some grants from foundations, 7 different local foundations. It includes $1 million from the state of New York, $500,000 from New York State Parks, and $500,000 from another infrastructure fund. And then the county agreed to fund the remaining million. And as part of that celebration, the Parks Department brought up one of those scissor lifts to the site. And it was a very small one, only 3 people at a time. But everybody who was in attendance took a turn to go up on the scissor lift to the height of the 3rd floor of the pavilion, the proposed pavilion, to see the view. And this is in April, so you can see that there's loads of blossoms starting, and you can see that the view is still quite distant. And this is just some other quotes about the significance and importance of the pavilion to Highland Park, to restore it to the complete work of art that it was and that it's meant to be. So what I need to do now is show you the simulated walkthrough of the design that Barrow Architecture did for the Children's Pavilion. And to do that, I'm going to go really quickly to the Highland Park Conservancy's website where this walkthrough is posted, and you could go back there and see it anytime. Okay. And here we go. This is a simulation of the redesigned Children's Pavilion by Barrow Architecture for the County of Monroe. And the new pavilion had to meet current building codes, of course. And that included an elevator for access. That's the law, and it's absolutely the right thing to do. I mean, this pavilion is within walking distance of Highland Hospital, of St. John's Home, of Al Siegel Center. Um, it had to meet fire code standards that were not in effect at the time. And so the project will include the perimeter road around it in order to allow for emergency vehicles. And this progress up the steps is what we hear from folks who remember going there as children, that they would run up the steps. Everyone that I've talked to who remembers going there remembers running up the steps. And this is the view from the simulated view from the third floor. And the simulation of the building on the high point of the park. So what happened with this project is that it went out to bid one more time through. It went out to bid, and it came back costing more than double the funding available. And so the county elected to look for additional funding from New York State, which they are doing. And the state has just issued a new grant that is named PLAY, capital PLAY. It's an acronym for basically park structures. And the funding available, if we were able to get a grant from this program, would be significant, and I think make it possible for them to actually move to implementation. The project is shovel ready. We hear that term a lot, but this project has been designed and all approved in all aspects. It just needs more funding. So, and of course, Highland Park Conservancy is continuing to advocate, and we will advocate until it is actually built. And that's the story so far. Any questions?
I think most people are on mute. If you do have a question, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask.
Well, I have a question of everybody. Are there folks on the call who remember going to the children, who experienced the Children's Pavilion in themselves? And if you want to, just put it in chat, that would be okay.
I did. I was there in the 50s.
Ah, and did you run up the stairs? Like,
I don't remember running up the stairs. I was about 5 years old, and I probably was being restrained.
oh,
I don't remember ever getting up to the third floor. I do remember going up to the second floor.
so did you go with your parents or your
Yes,
grandparents?
parents and grandparents. In
Yeah.
fact, I may have been with the grandparents. I'm a little fuzzy on that, but I do remember actually driving up there Okay. And then, we didn't walk up, we drove up and going up into it. This is probably mid-50s.
Yeah, yep. That would have been prime time for the pavilion because a lot of the plants would have been really mature by then. Um, well, I'm happy to hear that you were there. I never experienced it. I didn't live here um, until 1996. So I never ever saw the real thing in person. Any questions?
Well, just a comment. Actually, uh, Frederick Law Olmsted and his sidekick Calvert Vaux weren't the only ones that did landscape architect of major parks in and around cities. They had a competitor, Daniel Burnham, the City Beautiful movement, who designed parks in and around major cities. And I know the park in the north end of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, is one of them.
Yes, Daniel Burnham was a giant, and Burnham and Olmsted worked together on the World's Columbian Exhibition in Chicago, which started the City Beautiful movement. And Burnham gave a lot of credit to Olmsted, who did the site plan for that World's Fair. Thank you for bringing up Burnham. He was, I'm from Buffalo, and there's a really important Burnham building there that at the time was the biggest office building in the country. So that's a good point. Thank you.
Yes, and of course, they have a necklace of Olmsted parks around their city, just as we have on the south, the north and south ends of our city. And I didn't realize that Henry Hobson Richardson designed the Rochester City Hall, formerly the Rochester Federal Building. I know he designed that wonderful former Buffalo Psychiatric Center next to Buffalo State University campus, near Birchfield Penny Art Center and the AKG Art Center. And some of the cottage buildings were demolished, but a lot of the cottage buildings are still there, and the main building has been repurposed Hotel Henry, and I think there may be other things in there too.
So I need to clarify. I may have misspoken. Rochester City Hall was not designed by Henry Hobson Richardson. It was designed in the Richardsonian Romanesque style by a local architect. But I was just using it as an example of the style. And when the City of Rochester Parks Commission we're looking for a landscape architect. We're looking to develop Highland Park, which was the very first park in Rochester, the very first park in the original Rochester Park System. They went to Buffalo, which already had the park system, which exists today and is on the National Register. And the people in Buffalo said, don't mess around, go for the very best one and follow his advice. And so they did. And so Rochester got one of only a handful of park systems that were designed by Olmsted. Of course, there's the Emerald Necklace in Boston. Buffalo was the very first. Buffalo was trying to compete with New York City. Which had Central Park, and so they wanted a park system. And then Rochester and Louisville, Kentucky has an Olmsted park system. So it's a very, very rare distinction that we have in Rochester.
Yes, and also the southwest corner of Highland Park, the southeast corner of South Avenue and Highland Avenue, right off there, by the right off the Vietnam veterans or the Vietnam War Memorial. Those who gave the Rogestarians who gave the ultimate sacrifice in Vietnam was the original county almshouse that evolved into Monroe Community Hospital, and the poor people were buried there without any identification monument. I feel there needs to be a monument dedicated to those people and their names on there.
Well, there is an interpretive plaque at Highland Park to commemorate those folks. And there's also a section of Mount Hope Cemetery where some of those remains were, not all of them, but some of those remains were transferred to Mount Hope Cemetery because that site was disturbed by the construction of the the festival site. Apparently, they didn't realize that they should be doing archaeological investigations before they dug everything up. So there are two places where those people are commemorated. There could be more for sure, but Highland Park South, that area, it's Gary B. Kirk Park now is the name of it, and that area has been dedicated to memorials. The Vietnam veterans, there are a number of other. There's an AIDS memorial and a number of others. Any other questions?
Can I ask, is there water at the pavilion, like drinking fountains or restrooms?
There's a brand new restroom building there now. It was built like 2 years ago. It was built, during the COVID shutdown, and it's in the location where there was a refreshment stand. So there are accessible restrooms at the overlook. There is a water fountain, which I have never seen operational. And it's really ironic because the reservoir is right there in the view. But yes, so the pavilion does not have really, it's just an open air structure. But it will have an elevator.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I had one. Again, I was in it, and I don't understand why I didn't go up to the third floor. That would have been typical of me. And again, given it was torn down in the early 60s due to deterioration, I'm wondering if the third floor, even when I was there, was blocked off for some reason, if anyone knew that.
I think I don't think it was that at that time. Who knows? Somebody may have been tired. So I see Pastor JD, and I have to mention that Highland Park also has the relatively new Frederick Douglass Plaza, which is a wonderful, wonderful addition. Hi, JD.
Hi, JoAnne. I had to find the unmute button. Great presentation.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions that I can help with? Well, spring is coming, and I hope to see you all in the park. There's just no more glorious place to be in the spring. And the beauty of it is that It's ours, and it's open to all of us. And Highland Park Conservancy is dedicated to keeping it that way. So thank you very, very much for asking me to give the presentation on the pavilion.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Lambert's a
JoAnne.
nice place to visit there too.
So this is Charles. Drew had to step out for a few minutes. They're having an issue at work, unexpected issue at work. So he asked me to finish up here. Thank you very much for giving your presentation. Very much appreciated. I learned a lot. I unfortunately am too young to have been to have gone there. And also, like you, JoAnne, I did not live here originally. So I really didn't know very much about it. So this was a very good presentation for me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.